What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 30 Minutes of Hell podcast. I am your host, Brandon Baker, joined as always by Joey Jackson and Matt Jackson. Reminder, we are brought to you by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. You can find us on YouTube, on Twitter, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your stuff. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, leave a review, whatever it is you do on those sites. It really helps us out. It's been a couple weeks since we've talked about some Razorback hoops, 4 games to be exact. Arkansas beat Little Rock, pounded Maryland Eastern Shore, had a pretty disappointing loss to Illinois, and then a an exciting last second comeback against Miami that had a lot of good things and a lot of bad things, and we're going to talk about all of it coming up. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to start with a little bit of that Illinois loss, and there was obviously a lot to not love about this game. The Hogs lose by 13 points, went down, I think it was 11-0 to start the game, and just could never get back over the hump. But I do want to mention that I feel like Illinois just kind of played the game of their lives against Arkansas. I mean, it's not often that you will see a team shoot 48% from long range, even without defense, is if they're going at game speed, running game plays in front of a crowd. Like that's a lot of players shot above their average, and they just had a great game. I mean, credit to them. With that being said, Arkansas did not defend a lot of their offensive actions as well as they should have. Left some open threes, couldn't hit shots. I think they were 0 of 7 from three, Arkansas was in the first half. So I'm not saying that that was a good game by any means, but just one that was just kind of hard. Like it's hard to win that type of game no matter what you do when the other team is just hitting like that.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and you mentioned their hot shooting. That's obviously the big takeaway from that game. I don't know if even in a practice setting, a team is going 15 for 31 from deep. That's an outrageous number. Teams just, I mean, that's wild shooting from downtown. Whether we had, bad defense or not, that's just crazy. So, not super concerned, kind of like you, Brandon. Illinois just came out and played an incredible game.
Yeah, there were a few points where I'm concerned, and that's just I talked about it. Gosh dang, can we guard a pick and roll? And that's what they were running against us continuously. But I also have talked to a ton of people, and all of them have said Illinois will never shoot like that again. And of course, it just so happened against us. Uh, Overall, I think there were some positives. Always can appreciate never giving up, but I don't like the moral victories of, oh yeah, we didn't just stop playing. Well, that should happen anyway. But overall, I like the way we fought, came back a few times, gave ourselves a chance, and they just kept hitting from way downtown or just contested jumpers. Nothing we can do about it, but bad night for us, great night for them.
Yeah, and to that point, Matt, I think against Baylor we saw a lot of problems guarding the pick and roll as well. Against Baylor, it was more like a high pick and roll, and there was like 5 or 6 times it felt like that their big man was just wide open under the rim out of those pick and roll opportunities or those sets, and we just struggled to figure that out and guard it. And against Illinois, their big men were shooters, right? So they were running that pick and roll, but it was more of a pick and pop, and so it led to a lot of open looks. And I'm not saying that we didn't give them open looks. Like they had too many open threes that we could have contested better. But even at that, like even in that event, it's hard to hit at that high of a rate, regardless of defense, like we said. Um, but yeah, just kind of a weird game, all in all. A little mildly concerning, but just yeah, not hard to take a lot away from it when a team just does that kind of
Well,
offensively.
I think another one of my concerns play is how we're going to guard that stretch four, stretch five, because you look at Avicic, who ended the game with 21 points, 10 boards, shooting six for nine from deep for Illinois, not our Avicic. But you look at that, and uh, that we don't really know where our defense is going to come from in like that extended range. Like it's not gonna it's I don't know. We've seen our Ivisic play well, blocking shots, but he's too slow to extend out to deep on those pick and pops or switching situations. Brazil maybe, um, but it's just a little concerning on my end seeing those stretch bigs that are shooting 9 threes a game, hitting six of them that we don't really have an answer for, especially to your point, Matt, with our pick and roll defense right now.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of have to maybe throw in, well, one, Brazil's gonna have to step up and be that guy because he's the perfect length, the size, everything, athleticism to guard that.
We just haven't
But
seen it yet.
we
We've
haven't.
said that
We
for two
haven't.
years, and we haven't
I
seen
know.
it for
I
a
know
year and a
it.
half.
I know it. And then you could say, well, Thero or maybe even Billy Richmond, both of them are great defenders, but then you get them in a mismatch situation and it's, barbecue chicken. So
Which
what do you do?
Richmond has been, he's found himself guarding
Yeah.
a big in the post a couple
Yeah.
different times and has held his own for being an
He's,
undersized guy, but it's not
yeah,
ideal.
he's tough, he's built for college, I feel like, or
I,
just built for tough basketball. He just
and
goes
I
in,
like
punch you in the face.
I like the idea of switching some of those actions whenever you have a tough big man that can shoot like that. A lot of times at the college level, I feel like you don't get a big man that can hit at that rate that is also just a beast in the paint. There are obviously some of them out there. Hunter Dickinson comes to mind, but I mean, he's a top three player in college basketball, right? You're not going to play that kind of guy every night. So when you have Thero on the perimeter, you have Billy Richmond, even John L. Davis is 6'5" and stronger than I think people give him credit for. When you have those type of wings that you can be more versatile with, I don't mind switching some of those actions just to prevent wide open looks. You might find
Yeah.
yourself in some mismatches where all of a sudden you've got a 6'9" guy with John L. Davis on him in the post. But I like our team athleticism and our team length enough to overcome those situations more than I like Ivisic or Adu trying to sprint at a shooter from 10, 12 feet away. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So, I think that I like that wrinkle if you do come across that again. But I don't know that you ever come across someone that shoots 6 of 9 that's 7'1" again. You know what I mean? That's a
Well,
rarity
that
in college
that
basketball.
that's the thing though. It doesn't have to be a guy who does this on a consistent basis. Like if we were to play Illinois again, we know that he's going to step out and take some shots. Like it's just preparing for that and knowing that we've got a guy who's going to consistently step out and understand that this guy can hit shots and just
Yeah.
just being there.
Yep, 100%. And I think some of that too, we still have not seen truly our three big men play together when fully healthy. Right? I mean, Adu is getting closer. He's looked really good the last couple of games just in terms of the way he's moving, getting up and down the court, playing for longer stretches, everything like that. And then the last game was probably his best in terms of being prepared physically, but then Big Z is hurt, right? He rolled his ankle in practice before the Miami game, and he's only supposed to play for 10 minutes against Miami. And Brazil missed 2 or 3 games with injury too. So, I mean, we're still seeing these guys come together. So maybe they can defend it a little better than we've seen. I don't trust Ivisic or even so much Brazil to an extent just because of what we've seen in previous years to defend that consistently well, but maybe they can do better than what we've seen because they're still trying to come back and get back from these injuries. So it's something to watch that I'm not maybe overly panicked about yet, but definitely a trend to keep an eye on as we move forward in these non-con games. Um, but let's move into a little bit of the Miami game. Arkansas found themselves in a very similar situation, and to what Matt would mentioned earlier about kind of never giving up despite being in a pretty big, sizable deficit. They did exactly that against Miami. Their deficit was never as big as it was against Illinois. Like I think Illinois was pushing like, between 9 and 16 point leads most of the game, whereas Miami was keeping it right around 10 points for a lot of the time. Right. They were up 6, up 8, up 9 throughout most of the first half and some of the early second half. But right out of half, huge shot from DJ Wagner, huge three right as soon as the half started to start cutting into that lead. And I feel like the Hogs just kind of gained a little life from that. And we're actually able to overcome the deficit this time, get all the way over the hump and come back. It took them all the way up until there was a minute and a half left in the game when Boogie hit that three to take the lead. But there was no give up, right? There was no quit in the Hogs, and they fought all the way back through it. And I think that's a huge confidence builder. Even if Miami's not a great team, even if this was not like an outstanding win, being able to overcome that situation, the same situation you just found yourself in, being able to learn from that, adapt from it, and overcome it in this game, I think is huge. Maybe more than we even realize, as we move forward in this the next stretch of games here.
Yeah, and one big positive I want to bring out while looking at the stats right here, we had John L. Davis, 12 points, Boogie Fland, 18 points, DJ Wagner, 14 points, Avicic, 11 points, lots of double digits, widespread scoring, great scoring performances from a lot of different guys. It's not just Boogie and Thero on that game. We saw a good performance across the board. And that's what we've been looking for because we knew John L could do it. We knew Wagner can do it. We just hadn't seen that spark yet. And I feel like those two in particular are finally sprouting and doing that and maybe finding their role by chance.
And Brandon and I, we watched this game together, and there was probably about 5 to 6 minutes left in the game, and we were like, man, this doesn't feel like it's a 4 to 6 point game right now. It feels like we should be down a lot more. And I think that says a lot to the amount of fight that was in the Razorbacks during that game because they never gave up. There were multiple points throughout the game where we went on a small run and then they would come down, they'd hit a three or they'd get a big play, they'd get an insane dunk, and it would just kind of typically take the wind out of your sails. But they didn't let those run stoppers stop them. They kept with it. They persevered, and they, like you said, Brandon, didn't lead the game until minute and a half, 2 minutes left in the game. So super excited about that. Love to see that this early in the season. I think it says a lot about the team. And not to mention, I don't think it was expected that was it Pack wasn't supposed to play, Brandon? He
Yeah,
was
he had missed the
hurt.
last game, and I think there was some conflicting reports. I think he came into this game kind of questionable. There was one report that indicated it could be over a week before he came back. I don't think he knew until a couple hours before the game that he was good to go.
Yes, and he put up an incredible game. 22 points. He was obviously their leader, and then you throw in Cleveland, who ended with 15 and 10. Like they just had a great overall game, and I was very very impressed to see how the Razorbacks overcame it. And
And a huge game from Boogie. I want to throw a big shout out to him too. Not necessarily the whole game as a whole, but down the stretch, the last few minutes, that true freshman hitting those big shots, that
mhm.
sidestep, mid-range pull-up, the three to take the lead, the pass to Thero. That matchup with Nigel Pack is not an easy one, and we saw Boogie kind of trying to deny him the ball for a lot of the second half, trying to keep him from getting back into that rhythm, and I think that's huge. He got beat on a couple of back doors, but that's just kind of the nature of trying to deny a good player the ball, right? Like he's gonna beat you if you're playing that hard on him, that far away from the rim, but huge game from the freshman.
Well, and something else that I saw in the Miami win. Him and Wagner were reading the defense so well. I think I mentioned to you, Brandon, I don't know if it was early in the second half or late in the first. We were able to run sort of like a pick and slip action where we found Adu wide open in the paint 2 times. I think we found Brazil wide open in the paint once or twice, and that's just easy buckets, especially when Adu's healthy. So I think that was both all four or all three of those assists I think came from Wagner and Boogie. So just great job reading a solid defense and taking advantage of it.
And you got to shout out Mr. Consistency of Big Z on the 3 point line. Like one of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen. And it's getting to the point, like coming into this season, I didn't realize how good of a shooter this guy was. Like I knew he could shoot a little bit, but you're like, dude's over 7 feet tall. Surely he's not that good.
Right. Yeah,
And
he hit
sure
what was it
enough,
like 37% last year, but it was on such low volume. Like
yeah,
I think almost half of his shots came in one game. So it was
right.
just kind of like, oh, he had a good shooting stretch and he's got a pretty stroke, but is he really this guy?
He's
He's
this guy.
this guy.
Dude's good. Like if I need a three, I'm like, pick and pop to Big Z. What are we doing, guys? He's shooting lights out every single game. Just let
I
him
love the
go.
play. I love the play when he caught it in the corner and Nelly was right beside him and he just kind of looked at him like, scoot over, man. Like,
Yeah,
watch this. And he hit
yeah.
it
And
with
then
and
and then a couple plays later, I said Brandon and I were watching this game together. We were so hyped about him doing that, and then a couple plays later, he comes down and Boogie hands him the ball at the top of the key. He's wide open and he's looking to pass it, and Brandon's like, "Just shoot it!"
Dude, I did the same thing. I did the same thing. I sat there screaming, "Get it to him! Get it to him!" And there was another one. Oh, it was I think it was when I think Boogie passed it down to Theo, and Theo got fouled and hit 2 free throws or something. But he did a pick and pop, and I was like, "Get it back to Big Z! Let him shoot! Like, just do it!"
And
Because he was open.
this just came to my head. Speaking of Thero, can we talk about that Sports Center top 10 pass late in the game to
Oh,
Boogie in the
yeah.
corner for that three?
to take
Whew.
the lead.
The
That was the play.
athleticism,
Yeah.
the athleticism to not only do a full 180, find a guy, hang in the air, and throw it to him without a bounce, just full bullet to your
Across
guy in the
court.
corner
Yeah.
across the court is insane. That's
And
Brandon mentioned that's something LeBron would do.
right.
Like not comparing Theo to LeBron by any means, but that is a next level athleticism play.
Dude, and I love a classic reverse dunk like he did. Like
That
I
one
haven't
actually did make
seen,
SportsCenter. That one was
yeah.
number
Pretty
6 on
filthy.
SportsCenter the next
See,
day.
you just don't see him just a player just go straight up and just boom,
Hmm.
yam it just backwards. And he was further out than I think he realized because he really like stretched back to get that. So
Yeah.
I
In
love it.
traffic, not even, I feel like the midair creativity of it. I don't think that's what he intended to do. He was just
Yeah,
up so high that he thought, why not?
Hmm.
yeah, good
But
spark.
yeah, and so speaking of Thero, he kind of struggled overall in this game a little bit. I feel like, I mean, what did he end up with? Just 7 points on
Hmm.
3 of 10 shooting.
Hmm.
And that came after in the Illinois game, he had a ton of points, but he went like 52% or 53% from the free throw line, right? He shot 12 of 21 from the free throw line. That right there makes the difference in that game if he's able to hit some more of those free throws, I think. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on how Thero bounces back from these two games. Still had a good game against Illinois, don't get me wrong. A lot of points, kept them alive, but he's been like a 73% free throw shooter on his career and just had a terrible game against Illinois from the charity stripe and was only 1 of 3 against Miami from the free throw line. So
And not to mention those two free throws being the ceiling free throws of the game, missed them both back to
Yeah,
back.
sank my heart.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely, keeping an eye on how he bounces back from this. I feel like he's been such a good leader for this team that I think his mentality and his body language and how he, approaches the next game and the game after that, despite having maybe some down performances, I think will say a lot about him and about the team as a whole. I think that they could feed off of that energy from him. But he's still been great, still just stupid athletic. Just I want to see how he responds from not scoring maybe as well as he would like to. Um, but on the whole, I really love what we saw from John L. Davis against Illinois as well. I don't think we've talked a lot about him. In his last 3 games, he's now shooting over 53% from long range from three. Still kind of, I feel like trying to find his exact role in the offense in terms of like knowing when to shoot, when to pass, where he needs to be, things like that. He's still playing hard and he's starting to hit his shots at a higher rate, starting to look a little bit better like his old self. But I want to see him continue to be more assertive. Like we know he is capable of being that offensive, firepower, that superstar offensively. And it's coming back. We can see it kind of coming back, but he's still, I just feel like not as assertive as he should be. Right.
And I think we'll see that come. It's a confidence thing at this point. You can tell when he steps into his shot with confidence. You saw it plainly in the Miami game when he steps into the shot in rhythm with his confidence up. He's going to hit it, or he's going to give himself a shot to hit it. And I think we'll see that come throughout the season. Where we've already seen his confidence pick up over the last couple games.
Yeah, it's very nice seeing that. And like we always say, just seeing one go in every single time, it just gets a little bit easier. And I think that's what we've seen these past three games. And I feel like they're all finding their rhythm in the offense now. I feel like everybody, kind of like last year, we were sitting there, oh, nobody wants to step on anybody's toes. And I think it was kind of the same way coming in. But now everybody seems to be gelling a little bit better together. And we're finally seeing that set in for Davis.
And I know we kind of talked about Big Z earlier. I wanted to circle back to this because I feel like I don't know if there's ever been anyone that has averaged what he is currently on pace to average in terms of his full stat line of over 2 blocks per game, over 2.5 blocks per game right now, and he's shooting 58% from three. I mean, you can knock that down to 2 blocks a game and 50% from three, and I'm not sure anyone has ever done that before.
No.
I went back a little bit and a friend of mine went back a little bit in just the SEC, and nobody has done that recently. But I'm gonna dig into this stat a little bit more and see if there's anyone in NCAA history that has averaged these type of numbers that we're seeing.
You
Yeah.
know, Matt gave me crap a couple episodes ago about my prediction of Boogie Fland. And he was like, Matt was saying I was on his side. I knew he was going to be great. Well, I'm going to toot my own horn right now and say I said that about Big Z. He was I think I said it when we were looking at transfers. I said, this is the one guy I want. This is the one guy I need from the portal. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. So
You
Matt's
get
gonna
your
talk his,
applause.
I'm gonna talk mine.
You get your applause. Good job, Joey.
All right, one other thing I want to bring up before we move on to our UTSA preview. I still feel like the Hogs they're gelling, right? They're coming back from injury. Nelly is getting his form back, but I still feel like at the moment they are still a little bit too reliant on forcing turnovers and getting points in transition. That is a great thing to do when you're able to do it, and I think they are a very capable team. But against teams that don't turn the ball over much, like a Miami, right? Miami's not a great team. I think they're what 3-5 now on the year. Uh, their point guard, Nigel Pack, is like top 10 in assist to turnover ratio, and they just don't turn the ball over very much. And it gave us trouble. Like, I think we are a much better team than just 3 points better than Miami. But because we didn't really get out and run in transition very much, we were not able to take advantage of our talent. Hogs currently rank in the top 25 in steals per game and utilize it very well. Like against these inferior opponents, they've scored a lot of their points in transition. Thero getting out on the break, Boogie Flan getting out on the break after steals. But I really, really, really want to see them become a better half-court offensive team so that they don't have to lean on that as heavily moving forward. It hasn't mattered as much right now, but I think we've really seen it in all three of the games that they've played against high major opponents now when they're not able to just force turnovers at will. Right, you have to be a more disciplined defensive team and a more efficient offensive team than what we've seen at times. So I think that just in a vacuum is probably the biggest thing from the team as a whole that I'm really, watching as we move forward in these next couple games. All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to be right back and look a little bit at the next game up, which is the University of Texas San Antonio, and then talk a little bit about the future schedule and what we're looking for from the Hogs as we move forward and get closer to SEC play. So we will be right back.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. That's FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available in one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in Philly or New York, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create a new account in each state. It's easy, it's simple, and it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and my personal favorite, a nice little parlay boost here and there. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this: you get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part: the more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider the level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast.
All right. Arkansas returns to Bud Walton Arena for their first Saturday game of the season at Bud Walton. This time will be against UTSA, who at the moment, by the metrics, is roughly the third worst team that Arkansas will have played this year. They're not ranked very highly outside the top 250, right around 250 in both the net rankings and in Ken Palm. Their offense is outside the top 200. Their defense is 275. The Hogs are coming off of a high emotion win, a comeback win over Miami. Their next game is against Michigan in Madison Square Garden. This is the definition of a trap game. When you're coming off of a high emotion win, when you have a big game ahead of you that you're focused on, and it's so easy to overlook an opponent. I feel like this is the time where you have to come out and be aware that anyone can knock you off, knock you off it on your home court at any given moment. I don't think UTSA has the talent or the athletes to really do that. But if Arkansas comes out lackadaisical and lets them gain some confidence, you never know, right? We've seen teams catch fire in Bud Walton. We've seen this story before. Even this season, several games have been closer than they should be down the stretch, even if Arkansas does manage to put together a good run and win by 12 points or 15 or whatever it is. There's been games when they're only leading by like 2 points with 5 minutes left against a mid-major opponent. So this is one that when you look at the schedule, you're not worried about it. I'm still not really worried about the game, but the players better be worried about the game, right? They have to come out awake and not be focused on Michigan, not be riding the high of their comeback win against Miami. So it's one of those things that you can't take it for granted that you're just going to win and go through the motions, sleepwalk, and still win the game.
Yeah,
It's
this
also
is. Oh, sorry, Brandon.
I was just saying it's also a great opportunity for some of these guys that are still struggling and still coming back from injury to get more run and more confidence built up, right? Like Adu hasn't played a ton of minutes. Knox is still struggling tremendously. Nelly's working his way back into the offense. Like all these guys, this is your opportunity to come out and build that confidence, do well on the offensive side of the ball.
And this is a mental toughness game. You mentioned it, it's on a Saturday. I think it's at 1 o'clock, right?
Yes.
Like
Yep.
it's an afternoon game on a weekend. Like you're playing a team that you know you're gonna beat. I mean, it's a game that you still have to show up for because these early losses are what hurts you in the long run. I mean, we saw it. We saw it last year. Not that we had much of a chance at the tournament, but we lost so many games early on that we really didn't even have a shot in the latter part of the season. So these are, like you said, Brandon, must-win games. Don't come in lackadaisical. You gotta be mentally tough and ready to come out and play on any given night.
Yeah, we don't want to
Really.
get closer to March and have to say, oh, but we lost to UTSA. And so that should put us maybe at, a 10 seed. And you're like, no, we want to say, oh, yeah, we smoked them. Let's not even worry about them. They're not even, they don't even have a consideration for them. So we're good. So let's just take care of business and go into Michigan with a win.
Yeah, agreed completely. And then after, like you're saying, after UTSA, Hogs go to Madison Square Garden to play Michigan on a Tuesday night. Huge game. I'm really excited for that one. Get to go play in the Mecca of basketball. That's a dream location of mine to go watch a game. I would love to get there someday. Not going to be able to attend this Razorback game, unfortunately. But after that game, then you only have two games over the next 20 days. I think you go Saturday is a game against UCA, and then the next Saturday is a game against North Carolina A&T, and then you have a few more days off after that before you have Oakland. So a lot of rest days coming up. A lot of off, downtime for guys to get healthier, which I think comes at the best possible time because then after those next three games, right, you go UTSA, Michigan, who is currently a quadrant one opportunity game, then three in a row against relatively lower teams. Then you hit SEC play, you hit the ground running. And currently, I know this will change. It's really early for metrics. There's not a ton of data for the metrics to be based on. I know they will change. But currently, the 18 SEC games that Arkansas is set to play, 13 of them are quad one and five of them are quad two. There's not a single SEC game that is outside of quad one or quad two. So you've got to get healthy and get ready for this SEC run after these non-con games. So would love to see some health. But speaking of that, wanted to pose one more question, you guys, before we log off here. It's almost Christmas time, and I have one major Christmas wish for the Hogs going into the holidays, and I would like to hear yours as well. My Christmas wish for Arkansas this holiday season is to see a lot more of Nelly Davis becoming a more prominent part in their offense. I think even as he's found his footing in these last few games, I think that a guy like DJ Wagner, who's been pretty good, like I'm not disparaging what DJ Wagner's been doing, but I don't think that I want him taking more shots than a guy like Nelly Davis in the offense. And he has been over even the last three games when Nelly has been better, when he's starting to see his shots go in more. So that's really what I want to see is Nelly to become more assertive, get more shots up, and continue to find that role offensively.
Yep. And then mine, I said it at the very beginning that I was disappointed in it, but more consistent and better overall pick and roll defense. Let's get that under our belt. Everybody's going to run a pick and roll. Let's see consistent defense, good defense against that pick and roll.
Yeah. And mine would just be Carter Knox. Honestly, like, I don't know if I need to say more. He every time he's on the court, we all had such high expectations, high hopes. Like, I predicted him to be one of our top three leading scorers, and every time he's on the court, he is visibly a step slower than everyone else on the court. He doesn't play at the same level as the rest of the guys. And it's nothing against him. The college game is obviously a huge step. Like, it's a completely different atmosphere, completely different play style. Like, I'm not saying that I expect a freshman to come in and hold that that kind of weight. But I just feel like he can be so much better than what he's currently being. I don't
Better than
know.
31% from the field and 4.5 points a game.
Yep. Yeah. And with a already small roster, we need a guy who is on the same level as the rest of our guys. We can't have, one of our one of the top freshmen in the nation, I guess I should say one of the highest sought after recruits in the nation to, be our weakest link. You just can't have that on a championship team. We need him to be somewhat reliable. I think we expected kind of a flip-flop between him and Billy Richmond, and it's just kind of it's been tough to watch. So I really want to see him kind of get into a groove and at least be a core guy that we can rely on to, make a couple big plays, come in there, hit a couple shots. I honestly, I don't know if I have seen him visibly hit a three. I know he has, but I don't know if I personally have seen him hit a three. And I know he's a good shooter. So I know he's athletic, and it just hasn't shown in the college game. And we've talked about it in previous episodes. It could be due to a lot of things. It could be frustration with playing time. It could be adjusting to this new atmosphere. It could be understanding his role. But we need a guy that we can rely on later on in the season, and he's just not that guy right now.
All right. Well, that is all we have for you today. Before we log off, I want to take one quick moment to also recognize the career and the life of Bob Holt, Arkansas journalist that recently passed. Was in the business for several decades and had a major impact on so many people. Has become a mainstay not only in Arkansas press conferences, but SEC press conferences and national press conferences, to the point that most journalists around the world or around the country know his name. Um, a big blow to the Arkansas media and just kind of the world in general. He was an incredibly nice guy that helped anyone that he could. And I just want to take a minute to recognize him, and our condolences are with his loved ones at this time. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to talk some Razorback hoops with us. Reminder, we are brought to you by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your stuff. I have been your host, Brandon Baker, joined as always by Joey Jackson and Matt Jackson.